And I think we've heard this for a really long time. I remember hearing this when I was a kid, that the 40-year career is gone. I never thought I'd have a 40-year career. I think my dad was probably the last of that generation. Maybe you could still have a 40-year career, probably in academia, maybe government in some areas, yes, but for most of us, that's not really our reality. When I think about my career, I look at it as a series of 5-year careers. So little careers about different things with lifelong learning kind of interspersed in between, whether it was learning new products or learning new people or procedures or actually going back to school in between and moving my career forward. It's not a 40-year career, and people do need lifelong learning for many things in addition to careers. It could have to do with life situation, different circumstances, as well as careers. And it's interesting, too, that learning is no longer sequential. There was a time not too long ago when you went to high school, you went to college, then you got a job. And it's not really like that anymore. You might need to take some MOOCs or open courses while you're in high school to help you with your studies. You might need to take some to help prepare you for college. You might want to take some microcredentials to help earn some credits before you go to college. If you're like me, I use massive open online courses as part of my dissertation work. I couldn't figure out statistics. I watched every single MOOC on statistics over and over and over again until my math matched the math that they explained. I needed all those different voices to help me understand how it all worked. And so I'm grateful for MOOCs, and I did eventually pass, so that's good. But we're learning all the time now. It's no longer, segmented the way it was. And this is from the Global Learner Study too, and I think we all can recognize it's becoming a do-it-yourself mindset. We're all looking for ways to get what we need the way we need it. We don't want to stop or even keep working and take a 2-year degree. When we just really need a piece, a microcredential, a class. At Future Learn, we look at it as kind of different learner needs in the market. You start with something that's real small. You just need to know something quickly. So, for example, for this presentation, I didn't know how to put in a YouTube video into a Keynote. And so Google, thank you, and I was able to follow the directions and get it in there. Next step is kind of a little bit more basic intro or a top-up to learning or an area of interest, and that's your traditional MOOC or open course. Then the next step, something really substantial where you need proof that you've done it, and that's the micro-credential, the micro-masters, the specialization, all these different tangible competencies that have credit with them. And then if you need to master a discipline, then you have the 1 to 2 year experience. So really layer this all on top of a drastically changing higher ed landscape. I mean, it's no surprise to anyone how expensive it is to take a degree in the U.S. to the point that the value of a degree is being questioned. People are thinking, maybe I don't need a degree. Maybe some micro-credentials will do it, or coding camp, or and Generation Z specifically. I went to a session on them at EDUCAUSE last week, and they're really evaluating the ROI of education. I didn't do that when I was looking at schools. It's just what you did. You went to college. But today's students are looking at how much it's going to cost them, and is there another way can they achieve their goal? With our student debt crisis here in the U.S., graduates are leaving with about $57,000 of debt, and up to $100,000, 1 in 4, and that's more than you can really pay off in a lifetime. So we have to find more economical ways for learners to achieve their goals. On top of that, we still have a global skills gap where students coming out of college aren't able to address the requirements of business. And so 40% of employers are having difficulty filling their positions in all kinds of subjects, data analytics and critical thinking. And there's also an increased perception that you're all right without a degree, and that's particularly happening with the younger generations, to the point where employers are no longer requiring a degree, like Google. If you take a coding camp and you can prove to them you can code, you can still have the job. You don't need to have the bachelor's degree. And so then there's the other aspect of employers getting into the business of education themselves. It seems every week I see Amazon partnering with someone to offer education, and then Google's even creating their own credentials, their own curriculum, and getting college credit for it. So businesses are starting to take matters into their own hands and really creating the learning that they need for their employers to have. But I think we have opportunities to really contribute to this and prepare workers. And then finally, I'll just say AI is entering the workforce. Maybe his name's Al. It looks kind of like Al. You call him Al or call her Al. But this is going to impact all of us. 50% of all work could be automated by AI. And I was thinking, how is this going to affect my job? And I actually thought that probably AI could do a better job with this presentation, because in a few minutes they would read every piece of research that's been done on microcredentials, find some good videos, stitch it all together in 30 minutes, and it would be great. So there are all kinds of things AI is going to do that kind of change the way we work. And it's going to generate 58 million new jobs. So we really need to be able to offer microcredentials to help people move forward in these areas. So that's a lot. I talked about a lot of different things: the challenges in higher ed, the need of employees for upskilling, the need for lifelong learning. So how can we use microcredentials to support continuous learning? I thought, well, what is the need that we are trying to solve for? So I was thinking that learner requirements for continuous learning are all about things that are small, they're tangible, they're portable, they can do it anytime, anywhere, it's mobile friendly, affordable, of course, helps them attain a specific skill, and maybe can be stacked into something larger moving forward. Perhaps a potential solution, one of many, could be microcredentials, because it would solve these needs for continuous learning. But the question is, what is a microcredential? It's the definition of what it is all over the board. People have been trying to define it, but everyone defines it differently, which makes it challenging. Employers don't know what it means. Students don't know what they're buying. And we're all trying to solve it. You probably saw this one. 9 universities are working on a blockchain credentialing project to help kind of solve this issue. You've also got the Credential Engine, a nonprofit working on how to kind of make these translatable, more like badges. And then you've got, I was at EDUCAUSE, I stole this one from EDUCAUSE last week, where you've got individual universities creating their own definitions for microcredentials. They're all starting to converge a little bit, but they're just all over the place. And of course, we've been working on it too. We worked with our counterparts in the European MOOC Consortium to develop a microcredential framework. And so what this means is that all of the partners of the European MOOC Consortium, we've all agreed that a microcredential on any of our platforms would be the same kind of format, so that it can be stackable, translatable, people know what it means. So I'll share a bit about that with you. So our standardized microcredential framework is really based on industry skills, that these microcredentials would be supported by industry, who would help us determine what needs to be in them. About 100 to 150 hours of study, which is about the same in the U.S. as a 3-credit course. So to me, that's really important, because that means it's tangible. People know what that is. They know what a 3-credit course is, and it could also be stacked into a degree. And so, of course, then it needs to be assessed and have identity verification, so that we can be sure that they're actually accomplishing the goals at a master's or a bachelor's level. So that's our view on the microcredentials, and I'm sure this PowerPoint will be shared so you can have this, and it's out there on the web too. So a real important piece of this was the collaboration with industry. So an example is the Industry Institute of Coding, which was created in the UK based on this need for having coders. They have a massive skill gap for coders, and so they developed this collective of universities to offer MOOCs to help solve this problem. So we look at it kind of like pathways. I talked before about the different ways of learning. So a freemium model might be the open course. You might pay to upgrade if you want to keep the access. If you need something a little bit more kind of formalized, you go for a microcredential, which you pay for, and then you take that course, and hopefully that would stack into a degree ultimately, if you wanted it to. But if not, it could work as a standalone. I think we talked earlier about we have in the open courses, we have more learners, but they're kind of less committed learners. So a lot of them drop off, they're just doing it for interest. Or when you get to the microcredential, we have smaller amounts of learners, but they're more committed because they're trying to get that credit. So I think this provides massive opportunities for universities to really contribute, to think about how they can unbundle content and offer microcredentials in specific subjects to allow learners to get the pieces of information that they need without necessarily having to take a whole degree. And this really strikes home for me. When I was at the University of Pittsburgh, I really wanted to just take a course. I wanted to take a course in art from the art school, but I couldn't unless I enrolled in a whole degree program. I couldn't take a single course by itself at the university. And to me, that was shocking because I thought universities were places where you could go and learn things, but maybe only if you want the whole degree and not just a little piece. But I think we can change that, and that's something that's going to be really important as Gen Z comes forward, because they're going to expect ultimate customization. They're going to expect to mix and match things, and they're going to want to do it their own way. So I think there are great opportunities for universities if we can kind of get away from our attachments. So in conclusion, there's a lot going out there in the market, and I think microcredentials is one way that we can really enable continuous learning in all these different formats, however you need to have learning. So I'll just say thank you so much for your time. I guess questions? I think it could be either. So it just depends on what the micro-credential is and how you want to use it. I think mostly we're looking at it as more at the graduate level because rather than take a whole another master's or a whole master's, you can get just the specific credential you want, but it could also be related at the undergraduate level too. So we haven't heard really from employers that they want micro-credentials. That's kind of our solution for them. But we have heard that they have a skills gap and they need to have it addressed. And they like the idea of micro-credentials, and employees like it because they can stack it. So you make a choice to do a small thing, that worked out, and maybe then you make a choice to do a bigger thing, but you don't have to. So you can take a lot of different micro-credentials, and that means something, or you can put them together and get a degree, and that means something as well. So I think we'll get a lot of insight from them into what the job market's looking for. But we're new with it, so we're just getting started with them. Thanks for that question.